Let me see the caper. Higher! That's excellent! Excellent!
When entering the world of a period play, the movement is dictated by the costumes, but also by the life of the play, the sensibility, the expressions that allow people to fully embody the text and the needs that they have in that body robust time. The Renaissance, the opening of the early Renaissance with its politeness and sensibility to discoveries in science and art, to the later Renaissance with the wars and the kings and the queens and embodying all that we know of the Shakespeare text in those Elizabethan times. We're not going to deal much with variations on the verbal use because we're dealing primarily with the physical movement in a period play. Let's begin. With the early Renaissance, we want to have the legs fairly parallel, not too turned out, and feel an energized, lengthened spine. So Bill, a little Galliard. And drop your head, roll it side, back, side, rolling down. Breathe, plie, stretch the legs. Plie to roll up, release, lengthen the back of the neck, shoulders to open the upper body. Plie, releve, plie. Now stepping to the right. Step, touch, just the ball of the foot. Don't point the toe. And now just an easy turn out, head. Rolling around, rolling down. Let out your breath, don't hold your breath. Plie and stretch. Plie to roll up. Shoulders. Feel the deliciousness of opening your back. Again to the right. Step, now show the calf. Show that elegance. Good. And finish in first. For the men, take an easy third position with the right foot in front, with the front leg bent, and the hand in the Renaissance elbow, that the hand is at the waist. We want to make sure that we don't go to that fake position of the arms just bent for no reason. But the hand was there to make sure you had hold of the hilt of the dagger or the sword. And that also was a sense of status. Try shifting to the other leg. So that is a fairly easy third, open third position. And later Renaissance, it's a little bit wider stance. The Renaissance elbow was the representation of one's status and confidence in oneself. Whether we had it or not, it became habitual from a very young age. It also allows the actor to feel very strong emotions and yet not find oneself flailing, but having a place to prop those hands without being distracting. For the women, it's an easy stance and you have a long skirt, so it's not quite as necessary to have a specific position. For the men, you had tights and all of that calf, which was thought of as the sensual part of the body, could be presented to whomever was in the room. Let's take an easy bow. For the women, 2 bows. In the early Renaissance, you would be gathering your material in front of you, lifting up. So you have the material, take an easy plie, and coming back up. We can have a more dramatic bow for theater, that the leg comes around behind you and you go straight down and coming back up and place the feet together. Take that again and play with opening the hands on the bow. The leg comes around, and open the hands on the bow. And you come back up. Good. Play it one more time. The leg comes around, and the hand goes to the knee. And come back up. So several options for personalities, for characters in a play, and to whom you are bowing. For the men, and this always feels odd because it's so different from restoration bow, that the bow is almost like taking a kneeling position, but it actually is sending the weight forward, and both legs bend and come back. So here you are in that easy stance. You're going to take the bow and open your hands to the person to whom you are bowing and come back. Take that again, and this time bring the back leg forward. So you take the bow and you come up back into your easy stance. You could also place the other leg in front if that feels more appropriate, easier for you as you are working. So everyone get a partner and just take an easy bow to your partner you are greeting, and take that bow and bow. Good. Nice. Okay, couple of things. Don't bow quite as low. That the body really, it's about going down as opposed to leaning forward. So we want to have that verticality. Don't lose eye contact. Really see the person to whom you are bowing. Third thing, take it a little bit faster. And just an easy bow. Breathe. Ha. Good. And come up. Even a little bit faster. Everybody say greetings and come back up. And
Greetings.
good. A greeting for the early Renaissance is the familiar hand clasp where one would greet a friend taking hold of wrist to wrist, and the other hand then grabs hold of the other person's elbow. And this is to make sure that that hand is not then going for the dagger. And this is indeed a friend rather than a foe. And you have that warm, friendly greeting. You know that this is your friend. You let go, and you have the conversation, and you are on your way. I'd like to have you all just move around in the space in Elizabethan movement. It is very direct. The sense of space is purposeful. This is a Renaissance. This is the opening. This is our recognition of the world around us. It is a direct fascination with what is happening in science, in music, in the reopening of the world. And then for Shakespearean times, it is the Elizabethan period that the English are beginning to own the world. So very purposefully walking around. For the women, when you are walking, hands can be here or just easily out, but you don't want to grab your clothing. You want to just keep your arms easy. They're not going to fly around a la the way we walk today. And find a moment where you can easily sit and enjoy sitting. For the women, believe it or not, you do not need to hold the legs in. You can have a casual sit. The dress will cover the legs from whatever position they are in. For men, as you sit, there's a robustness in sitting, and you can allow yourself to be casual in the chair, and perhaps having one hand on your thigh, making sure you could keep your hand on the hilt or the attachment of your dagger so that it's not going to offend anyone else. And then coming up, and purposefully when you move, it is walking, finding your presence in a wide open stance. Elizabethan. Could we have a little bit of the galliard as accompaniment as they walk around in the space? Give yourself permission to find changes in the rhythm with which you walk. And you can stop and talk to someone. Good. And rest. Nice. It's getting a little more robust. I think you can go farther. Yeah? So give yourself, just as you're laughing, give yourself a chance to really enjoy this. For the women, let your hands also can go to your hip. The Renaissance elbow can be a part of this. If we were doing Merry Wives of Windsor or Maria in Twelfth Night, yes, it's a little bodier. Be careful about getting that soft, later period of being delicate with the space. Really own moving through this space. Give yourself permission to stop to talk to each other. That nice fourth position, or even that wonderful Henry VIII position of really owning your stance. Let's try it again and play a little bit more. Change those speeds with which you walk. Very direct in how you are going. Some of you are adding more curves to it, which changes the period. Let's try it one more time. Go. Ah, yes. Nice. Be careful about getting too much into your hips, Marie. When you greet someone, let your hands come together. Nice. Hello, Matthew.
Nice to see you again.
Ah, Sir Toby. Good. And rest. Great. For guys, you can also find a moment when the furniture becomes your presence, your offering. May I use this chair for one moment? That the foot can go up on the chair. Yes, you can lean on that to talk to anyone. It might be a stool in the presence, in the set with which you are working. So not to be afraid of that sense of really using your presence in the space. The clothing will help, but for right now, imagine that heavy material on you that you have to move around. If the women move with too much swagger in the hips, when you get the clothing on, it really moves with you. So hence there's a little, even though it's earthy, there's a little bit of gliding to keep that from moving way from one side to the other. Let's try it one more time. Bill. Ah, yes. Imagine you've forgotten something. Oh, and you have to run back to get it. Yes. Ah, and you greet somebody you haven't seen in a long time. For the women, you can kiss the cheeks. Yes. Good. For the Renaissance hand position in leading, the man offers his hand and the woman just gently, and it's long and low, early Renaissance, and the man's thumb holds her hand so that we have just that easy lengthening of the arms. So we're going to have a very simple bow. The women will turn slightly to face the men as you bow, and the men, your right foot will come forward, it will come back slightly, bend both legs, and bring your right foot back to where it was. Let's just take the bow. 4 count. 1 and 2 and plie and back. Good. So the pavane is a step forward starting with the left foot. Step forward, together, rise. And step forward, right. Step forward, right, together, rise. And double, which is 3 steps forward together and rise, starting left. And left and right and left together, rise. Good, good. And we want to make sure that the arms are lengthening out, that nobody has to let the arm sort of sag down. Think about the energy that you have in this wonderful social context of being with your partner. It changes the context a little bit of the period if the arms come into you. We start getting into a later period. So we want to lengthen the arms out, keep leading for the men with that hand. You're helping the woman come around. And men, on the outside, you're usually on the outside of the circle, so you have to take larger steps. For the women, you have a very heavy piece of clothing with a long train in back, so it's a little bit harder to take large steps. Let's try it again. Come into the circle. For the men, control your dagger on the outside. Good. And extend this forward so you can get a little closer. Good. And for the women, you are controlling your skirt in front in the early Renaissance. So let's say we're doing a very, very early pavane. Again, 4 counts for the bow. And 1 and 2 and plie and center. Left foot forward and rise and forward and rise. Double left and right and left and rise. Right foot forward together, rise and forward together, rise. Good. Backwards. Now imagine you're in a large hall. There are other people who are watching you. It was doing the pavane that Henry VIII first saw Anne Boleyn. And bow. And lead your partner off. Thank you. Excellent. We're now going to show some use of the fabric in the early Renaissance costumes, because this is often difficult. It's heavy fabric and it has a very long train. Marie, would you come up in this early Renaissance dress? And you can see the natural tendency would be to lift the fabric. What the women actually did was to wrap their arm around the long train and back, fold it over their arm, and carry it with them. If they need to, they could take hold of the front of the skirt and be able to be off on your merry way, making sure that you didn't trip over all of that fabric. Good, excellent. This is also a very common thing that happens today, is that this arm doesn't move. It stays right there. So as you exit, keep that hand there rather than letting it fly out to the side. There we go. Now we have a very dignified early Renaissance woman. Now, as part of the later Renaissance, we have the wonderful galliard, which is also mentioned in Twelfth Night in the scene with Sir Toby and Andrew Aguecheek. So we're going to start with the last movement of the galliard, which is the posture. This is the position you land in. It's not too turned out. One foot is in front of the other, and both legs are bent. Just take an easy jump. Plie, change feet. Good. Plie, change feet. When the men do this, the hand is on the hip that controls the dagger. The other hand is also on the hip, again in our famous Renaissance elbow. For the women, your hands would be held low to keep the skirt from rising too much. We don't want to show the ankles. So the women, the hands are down, controlling the skirt. For the men, the hands are on the hips. And plie, change, posture. Plie, change, posture. This is a 6/8 dance. So the first 4 moves in a 5 pas is 4 kicks to the front, then a slight hesitation, and we change the legs in the posture. We're going to take left, right, posture, all together, and left, right, posture. Now we have the right foot in back, 4 kicks, and right, left, posture. Again, continuously, so it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rest. How did that go? Any questions?
Where do we hold the dagger?
The dagger wants to be held close to the belt so it can be controlled while you are dancing. If you hold the hilt, there's more chance of the blade of the dagger coming up away from you and perhaps causing injury to your mate or someone else, which we don't want to have happen. So starting with the left leg in back, we're going to kick that forward. And 4 kicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're doing it at a very sedate pace. So we're going to try it again if we can have Bill with the music. So 1, 6 as the introduction. Start with your left leg. Start with your right leg in back, so that we are going to jump onto our left. In beginning, we most often start jumping onto the left. That's the side of the heart. So the arms are down for the women, arms on the hips for the men. And Bill. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Croisé. Cross. 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 Good. Roulade, the right leg in back. That is the leg that lifts. So the roulade, you're going to lift the back leg, cut it underneath, lift the back leg, cut it underneath, and go to posture. And then the left leg lifts in back, front, posture. The toes are never pointed. This is an easy period. We want to go for an openness, not a specific position. Starting with the right leg lifting in back. Again, 6 as the introduction. And back, front, change, back, front, change, back, front. Back, front, 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 back, front. Good, and bow. Good, for the women, the feet come together to bow. Could we show one of the most popular dances, which Queen Elizabeth actually made popular? She demanded that the women in her court were very good dancers because she loved to dance and practice the Galliard almost every morning as part of her exercise. But her favorite dance was La Volta, which is a dance of being lifted on the dance floor. And again, we didn't see this until the Lindy days of the 1920s and 30s. So, Michael, would you come up? Marie will be on your right side. The man, as he was coming into the woman, would put his right arm around the woman's waist. The woman would put her left hand on the man's shoulder. The man would then take hold of the bottom of the corset. This is what made it quite risque and quite wonderful. Grab hold of that and just grab hold as if you have the corset. And on the lift, the man would step on his left, the woman steps on her right, and the man's right knee goes up under her derriere and lifts her high in the air. And step and lift. Good, yes. Would you take that one more time? Good, and grab hold and step and lift up. Good, yes. And that was a wonderful moment for everyone to find the bravura of their dancing. We will now do a brief scene from Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare. This beginning with Maria and Sir Toby, the entrance of Sir Andrew Aguecheek, so that we can see a little bit of the bows and the fun with the galliard. This is the body period. Yes? Don't be polite.
What went Castellano Volgo, for here comes Sir Andrew Agueface.
Sir Toby Belch! How now, Sir Toby Belch?
Ah, sweet Sir Andrew.
Bless you, fair shrew.
And you too, sir.
Accost, Sir Andrew, accost.
What's that?
My niece's chambermaid.
Mr. Sacost, I desire better acquaintance.
My name is Mary, sir.
Good mistress, Mary Accost.
You mistake knight. Accost means front her, board her, woo her, assail her.
I would not, by my troth, I would not undertake her in this company. Is that the meaning of accost?
Fare you well, gentlemen.
Good, and we're going to go on to a later scene.
Are you good at these kickshaws, knight?
As any man in Illyria, whatsoever he may be, under the degree of my betters, and yet I will not compare with the old man.
What is thy excellence in a galliard?
Faith, I can cut a caper.
I can cut a mutton to it, too.
And I think I have the back trick simply as strong as any man in Illyria.
Wherefore are these things hid? Wherefore are these gifts of a curtain drawn before them? Oh, they like to take dust like Mistress Mall's picture? Why dost thou now go to church in a galliard and come home in a coronato? My walk would be a very jig. Oh, not so much as make water, but in a syncope. What dost thou mean? Is this a world to hide virtues in? I can see by the excellent constitution of your leg, it was formed under the star of a galliard.
Aye, 'tis strong, and does indifferent well in some damn-colored sock. Shall we settle down on some revels?
What shall we do else? Were we not born under Taurus?
Taurus, that's hearts and sides.
No, sir, it's legs and thighs. Let me see the caper. Higher! Excellent, excellent.
Good, good. And we would take that moving off out of the scene. Michael, every time you try to talk about one of the dances, show off.
Okay.
So the backward step is the galliard that we learned. Back, front, back, front. Back, front, back, front. Yeah?
Okay.
So kick the leg
And
back.
the caper is...
And
is
the caper
this
is
thing?
do the cinq pas.
This is the straight leg one.
That's right. That's right. But bend your legs. The last kick was fabulous. And I'd like you to try to jump as high as you can. Whenever you can show off for him, and whatever you do is not good enough. So keep dancing. And don't forget the Renaissance arm, that as you are dancing, even kicking high, yeah, the hands are going to be here. Maybe as you go higher, they might splay out. But when you're playing around, let yourself come back to the hips.
Okay. What's a coronato?
A coronato is a coranto, which is a running dance that's based on some of the steps of the galliard. But it would be a traveling step. Let's try it again.
Are you good at these kickshaws, knight?
As any man in Illyria, whatsoever he may be, under the degree of my betters, and yet I would not compare with the old man.
Oh, what is thy excellence in a galliard?
Faith, I can cut a caper.
I can cut a mutton to it, too.
And I think I have the back trick that's simply as good as any man in Illyria.
Wherefore all these gifts hid? Wherefore all these things have a curtain drawn before them? Oh, they like to take dust like Mistress Mall's picture? Well, why does not now go to church in a galliard and come home in a coronato? Oh, my walk would be a very jig. Oh, not so much as make water, but in a syncope. What dost thou mean? Is this a world to hide virtues in. I knew by thy excellent constitution of thy leg it was formed under the galliard.
Aye, 'tis strong, and does indifferent well in a damn colored stocking. Shall we set about in some revels?
What else shall we do? Were we not born under Taurus?
Taurus, that's sides and heart.
No, it's legs and thighs. Let me see thee caper. Higher! That's excellent! Excellent!
Good. Thank you very much. Excellent. It's up to an actor to understand what the deportment, styles, gestures, mannerisms might be in order to behave believably in what to the actor might be an imaginary world, even though we know it existed. We hope you've had fun today. We've had fun presenting these. And we hope that you have been given freedom through the details to find many more nuances in play within the characters. So, sitting, enjoying the robustness, but for the women, never crossing the legs until after a period piece from the 1920s. It was the first time in history since the Greeks that women were showing their calves. Figure that. All of that time, women's dresses were covering their legs, except, of course, in private moments. And when they showed the legs, they crossed them. There was an ease that when you're playing a 1930s Noel Coward piece, 1940s, yes, you want to cross your legs. You want to find that spiral in the body that also finds that seductiveness that we had with restoration. But you can close yourself off and play with that as you are working. The flapper era changed everything. As women showed more and more of the upper body, it's the first time that we had striptease that was a part of the gay 90s. They never really stripped down. It wasn't until Charleston era that we had the spaghetti straps, that the only way burlesque strippers could stay in business was to start to bare everything, because everybody was already seeing body parts. So they had to stay one step ahead of that. I'm not sure what would happen today, because everybody bears everything anyway. So nothing is unusual. So the 30s and 40s saw the ease of one's sexuality and being able to play with it, deal with it, and not be afraid to find those asymmetric positions which makes one wonder what is really going on and when that seduction takes place. And the 60s really did away with almost all of the rules. The Victorian sensibility of corsets was carried through to the 1950s. So our grandparents in the 1950s had grown up with corsets, and many of them continued to wear them even as they got older because that's what they were used to. So as you're investigating the life of a play, go back to what your parents might have done and what was influencing them, and even to the grandparents of your character, because those people had a great deal of influence in how your character might see the world. So it's not just the present time of the play you are in, but the entire world of that play.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake.
Sir, your man without desires to speak with you.
Gentlemen, I'll return immediately.
Playing period plays is nothing more than understanding the fashions, courtesies, and expressions of polite and acceptable behavior that might be slightly different from our contemporary usage. So what does that mean for an actor? It means knowing how to bow. It means knowing how to use a cane, how to use handkerchiefs and fans that actually can add to a performance by allowing an actor to find the nuances, intrigues, communication that one might use with what seemed like props, but were actually a part of everyone's lives. Back in the time of Louis XIV and Charles II, in the Restoration period in gallant England, and then later going into the period of Victoria and Albert in what became a little bit more of a puritanical England. We're going to focus also on applying the work into a Restoration comedy by Sir George Etheridge called Man of Mode, and then a later Victorian play by the wonderful Oscar Wilde, The Importance of Being Earnest. Our warm-up for Restoration and Victorian demands an openness, a lengthening of the spine, and a full, elegant gesture. So Bill, let's have a little minuet. Plie and stretch, plie and stretch, plie to relever, and lift, plie, right hand reaching out. Step to the right, place the foot in back, take an easy bow, place the feet in first, left hand and reach. Stepping left, place the foot in back and bow. For the men, shift the weight back, coming back to center, rolling down and one. Plie and stretch. Plie, rolling up. Roll your shoulders over. Place the right foot in front and twist around it. Put the right foot in back and twist. Place the right foot in front and place the left and finish. That twisting around is the épaulement that gives the ambiguity, the openness with the sense of curving of the space. Unlike the Renaissance, one's sense of space was full of curves in the Restoration period. So when one wanted to deal with anyone in the space, that fourth position stance, even for women with the feet a little bit closer, allowed one to be open to someone watching them on one side and yet dealing with someone else on the other. To change position, we would shift our weight forward and turn in the opposite direction, or step onto that foot and turn back around. So that if we wanted to step forward, we would then turn to circle around and open ourselves up to that person we were then going to address. It helps as a preparation for this period to always be thinking in terms of curves and moving to position oneself. And again, the Renaissance arm is carried through this period. Positioning oneself to be seen as well as to see what is going on.
Judith, for restoration, do we continue with the Renaissance elbow?
Absolutely. The Renaissance elbow was the representation of one's status and confidence in oneself. Whether we had it or not, it became habitual from a very young age. It also allows the actor to feel very strong emotions and yet not find oneself flailing, but having a place to prop those hands without being distracting. So if we move around in the space and I want to change my position, I would position myself openly, but continuing the sense of curve. If you would all play with that, we can find the sense of curves in the space as we move around and feel what that is like to move oneself and then keep oneself open and being able to change. Find that elegance and yet play with ambiguity. Many secrets and solicitations were going on in Restoration comedies. Have fun. Go, walk around in the space. Good. Feels sometimes a little bit like working on a runway. The nice thing is that it's a sense of curves. And for the men, you can change which hand is there. Usually the sword was left at the entranceway to any social situations. For women, the hands were kept in front. That encourages the actor to find a specificity of gesture that they might not have otherwise. We let the language do the talking. The body is seductively checking everyone out and imagining what other secret they're going to spread or share with someone else. Marie, I heard some gossip about Emma. Without Emma knowing, would you spread that gossip as you are moving around in the space? But without them knowing. And be charming. So Bill, I think you have a little bit of gossip about Matthew that it's important for the ladies to know. The Restoration period was the reawakening after Cromwell's Puritan ethics and morals. Everyone hated that. Given the freedom of the reign of Charles II, coming from Baroque Europe, gave everyone the chance to find their elegance, to realize that sex was important to everyone, and it wasn't something that we should hide, but rather indulge in. Everyone was having an affair with everyone else, husbands were getting cuckolded, and everyone was enjoying the music of the minuet. If you would, please. The intrigue is also making sure that no one else knows that you are gossiping. So as you are gossiping, sharing openness with other people, giving people compliments, absolutely making everyone feel elegant. Good, Sarah. If you would, yes. I think that we should plan a party for everyone. Perhaps you could have your servant get the food? Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Ah. If everyone if we were looking at the bows of the period, for the women, the bows are quite similar, but now the arm opens up and one foot goes slightly back so you can bow a little bit lower than we did in the late Renaissance. And the foot might be then placed back to center. So for the women, the arm comes out and back to center. As we get later into the period, it's more important that the arms are out here because of the wide clothing that would rise as one went down into it. This helped to keep that under control. For the men, now we have the leg going back. This bow is called presenting the leg. And the right leg goes back. We present the inside, the calf and the inside of the thigh is thought to be the sensual part of the body. You present your leg, you open your arm, and you come back again. That bending happens not from the hips. We might have a fop who bowed a little bit lower, but rather the elegance is bending the back leg and letting the upper body bow. Snuff was very popular. It's a tobacco. It's a very finely ground tobacco that was carried in the waistcoat in a very small container. It was flicked open with one hand, 2 fingers to pinch into the top of the snuff, and then 1 finger would go to the nostril, and the thumb would take it to the other nostril, and one inhaled with a vigorous inhalation, trying desperately not to sneeze.
Judith, how do we use the handkerchief that we have with the snuff box?
Yes, usually 2 possibilities. We have the handkerchief in the left hand. That's the hand we're taking it out. The handkerchief is there to catch the snuff. We flick open the little container, take a pinch, and then close the box. They're these small, wonderful little boxes. Put it back in here, and then the handkerchief is free to just flick there and flick the collar, rather than wiping, which would then leave these ugly brown stains on the collar. The other possibility is, as one is using the handkerchief, it is tucked up inside the shirt. You would get out your snuff, take the pinch, take that, and then wipe it off. The Restoration period, with its ambiguity and intrigue, promoted a sense of elegance in that roundness that was manifested in the dances. Practicing a minuet can help one feel the sense of the bows, the necessity for precision and delicateness in the way one moved. The minuet is the most popular dance of the Restoration into the Georgian period. And it's through the minuet that we understand the nuances of the bows and the épaulement in the carriage of the body. The hand positions for the minuet are the middle finger and the thumb touching each other, and the palm of the hand being able to change position in the dance. It is this position that then we get the elegance of the open hand with that first finger out away from the rest of the fingers that so represented refined society. So with a very basic, easy minuet bow, we're going to take the bow into a little forward and back and crossing so that you get a chance to see the nuances of relating to one's partner and to the presence in the hall to whom we take the first bow and then acknowledge our partners. Bill. And 1. Open and plie. Step back. Forward and bow. Right hand in and back and around. Wide circles. left hand back. Walk. Turn away from your partner. And pass with échauffement. Find those circles. In. So, in using the costume of the Restoration with the large material, one takes hold of the other side and not grabbing it, but feeling where the poignet is, putting the fingers underneath it so it lifts it without showing the leg in front, taking a step down, and then turn around and take a step up, and then releasing it. Good. That way we don't tear the clothing, we don't grab it, soil it with our hands, whatever. And it also is somewhat elegant to reinforce the widening of the skirt. Why do we have the widening of the skirt? Fashionably, it made the waist look smaller, and that was very alluring. With the use of the fan, one holds it very lightly in the palm of the hand, really supporting from the baby finger and the thumb, releasing the fan down, turning it so that this part of the wrist is very evident. The elbows rest slightly on the sides of the poignet so that it is very easy, very casual. It's the ease with which one works that one owns one's power and status. You hold it lightly, and then you release down, turn it, and just ever so slightly fluttering. Sitting for restoration is a part of that circular movement and really owning the furniture. So as Matt goes to sit, he's going to circle around and place himself, and I'm going to ask you to do it again and not plop. Thank you. Place yourself, so bend your knees. So circle around. It helps everyone, as you come around to sit, to place one leg close to the chair so you know where the chair is, and then you can just sit. Let's try that again. This is a low chair, so it's very difficult to sit in a lower chair. As you come around, good. And you can put your hand on the chair, yes, and lounge, good. Excellent. And show that calf. Okay, go back and do it one more time. And as soon as you sit, allow yourself to find a comfortable position in the chair, that you own the chair, it does not own you. Ah. And I wonder if they have cooked the wonderful mutton for this evening. Perhaps. And rising from the chair, the weight goes forward and one is on one's way. With the use of the cane, in that elegant fourth position, the tip of the cane is close to the foot, the top is out away from the body. And as one walks, there's that 4-count rhythm with the cane that is so elegant in these costumes. Would you take a walk around, please? And can you Excellent. Good, good. And the only thing I would say, Matt, just remember to show that calf. Right. And it's always in walking. One of the things we forget as we're dancing, we want to be polite, so we start stepping with the ball of the foot. In walking, it's definitely heel first. It's only in dancing that we step with the ball of the foot. Thank you. In restoration, in doffing the hat, do off with the hat, the arm again has that curved motion. The ideal is to take a wide gesture to get to the hat. And as the hat comes off, it circles out, makes an S, and opens in the bow. So that, and then as it comes on, it circles out to the side, and you, if you need to, you can use two hands to get the hat on. Isn't it nice that that's in the etiquette books? When we carry the hat, we can carry it underneath the left arm. And then that's free, and this hand actually can sometimes hold the hat so that your right hand is free in the course of a conversation. Or you might give the hat to a servant. Or you might wear the hat indoors. The hat was worn quite often indoors unless you were in the presence of someone of superior rank. There's some wonderful pictures throughout history in many museums that there might be a group of people having a card game or a conversation and only one person has a hat on. So you know that that person is the one of higher rank. I'd like to do the bow again. This is a very common error in many people in doing a restoration bow. We want to take it a little bit too low. The bow is actually from the waist. Could you take the bow again? Let's try it with a hat. And taking the hat off, making an S, and bow. Good. Now, in correcting one with this, I would even, this is much better, yes, it's bending from the waist and this back leg, as opposed to bending lower and bending at the hips. So you take the handkerchief between the two fingers, wrap the fourth finger around, and there the handkerchief is just easily hanging from the hand. It can flip over. Good. And then you have it to gesture when you need it. In order to put it away, release it. Take your fingers, tuck it up underneath your sleeve, get it all tucked away. You have that one corner, you can carry on a conversation, go about doing what you do, and then when you need it, take hold of that middle part, and there you have the handkerchief, and just subtly wrap your fingers around it. The kissing of the hand is not really the kissing of the hand. Let's see it in costume now, that you offer your hand to the superior. He lays his hand, and then the forehead goes to the hand, and he rises when the superior removes his hand. We're going to investigate the world of the Restoration comedy, doing a scene from Man of Mode by Sir George Etheridge.
There's a great critic I hear in these matters, lately arrived piping hot from Paris.
Sir, fopling flutter, you mean?
The same.
He thinks himself the pattern of modern gallantry.
He is indeed the pattern of modern foppery.
He was yesterday at the play with a pair of gloves up to his elbows and a periwig more curled than a lady's head, newly dressed for a ball.
What a pretty lisp he has.
Oh, that he affects is in imitation of the people of quality of France.
His head stands, for the most part, on one side, and his looks are more languishing than a lady's when she lolls at stretch in her coach, or leans her head carelessly against the side of the box in the playhouse.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I think we got that. Now, find a more directness. Now we're going into Victorian, and the women, you still have your fans, but as you move through the space, you are also being very direct in your movements. We are now letting go of the curves.
Do we still keep the arm on the hip, or?
No. Now in Victorian times, the arms are long and low at the sides or behind, and sometimes even one arm at the side and the other one just easily in back. No more handkerchiefs. They might be in the pockets. You might have it if you actually need a handkerchief. But it is no more a fascination as a part of the accessory, but it's really for use. In greeting a woman, the man would doff his hat, that means to do off, by just taking hold of the rim, taking a little tip of the hat, yes, and putting it back on. Now, this is what we normally do, is to take the hat off and then take it forward. The Victorian is to tip it as you are taking it off. Try it again, Matt. Excellent. And then putting it back on. And the man would wait for the woman to extend her hand in the handshake. So good to see you, and it would just be one firm shake, as opposed to the shaking of hands that one might do today, or that it's actually written into many of the etiquette books to not have a fake handshake, but to really have a very firm handshake that one wants to make that kind of connection. It is not taking hold here. It might be in excess, but quite a wonderful choice for the man to then wish to kiss the woman's hand. Well, thank you. And that might also show a character choice in a play, and sometimes was quite acceptable. Thank you. After the French Revolution, that Restoration bow, the Baroque bow, was not popular because in France, if one used that bow, one might be hauled off to the Bastille and beheaded. People avoided that bow. It became very proper for the men to find the heels coming together, the hands going behind the back, and just taking a very easy bow forward, bending at the waist. For the women, the bow is a curtsy that with the hands in front of the body, the ball of the foot is placed in back and the knees bend. The head just nods a little bit and the feet come back to center. Like the later Renaissance, a bow for servants is much subtler. For the women, it's what we call a bob. For the men, it's a simple nod of the head, very small. And usually, a servant, for the men, the arms are at the side. For the women, it might be at the side, but very often with the hands kept in front of the body. Now, when one sits in Victorian times, the women sit a little bit more on the edge of the seat, partly because we had a lot of clothing behind us, and partly because it allowed us to get into the chair and out of it quite quickly. When men were in the presence of a woman, the man would never sit farther back in the chair than the woman. One wants to make sure that in sitting for the women, that the leg is never crossed. This would be a sensibility that happened probably during the time of World War I and not before that. It was very proper for the women to actually cross at the ankles. The men, in crossing the leg, could have the thigh cross thigh to thigh, or the calf at the knee, which would exaggerate the size of the calf. It's quite a lovely moment. And there are examples of this in paintings in many museums. But that thigh to thigh is a definite European sensibility. So once one sits, for a woman in owning the chair, we could play with a character like Hedda Gabler and know that in the presence of the doctor, you are defying custom by crossing your legs. It's a wonderful movement to really exaggerate her character. In coming up out of the chair, the body just shifts onto the foot and the body flows out of the chair. Unlike what we tend to do today, just flopping down into the chair, we knew, sitting into the chair, that our clothing needed care as well. Let's go through leading a woman in and out in Victorian. The man offers his arm, his right arm preferably, but sometimes staging doesn't allow that. The right arm, the elbow is bent. The woman wraps her hand inside, takes hold of his forearm, and the man leads the woman into the scene, into the dance, out through the door, but it is that wonderful gesture of taking hold of the arm. Bend the elbow mat a little bit more, and you actually can keep it fairly close to the body. Good. And a wonderful warm-up for the actors in doing a Victorian play is to go through a waltz. This gets that elegance of the three-quarter rhythm into the body, which is so different from our 4/4 music, especially with rap and rock. It's wonderful music, but it doesn't have the flow of the elegance of that Victorian waltz. And in the waltz, the arms are wide. The hand is not held low in the back. It's actually quite high. And a man would probably be wearing gloves because the hand would not want to touch the back of the woman's dress. And the man might even have a handkerchief in his pocket that he would wrap around his hand so even the glove would not touch or soil the back of her dress. The arm is long out to the side, never stiff and not bent, but with an ease that gives one the elegance of the flow of that wonderful waltz music. So 2 bars, and then we'll begin. And at the end of a dance, the man would offer his arm and lead the woman off to go get something to drink, or perhaps to take her outside and get a little kiss on the cheek, but we weren't allowed to do that in public. So the Victorian women and men were very elegant with their umbrellas and walk around the space. Emma. Good. We want to make sure that the cane only touches on every 4 counts rather than every 3. And it's all in the wrist. So as we take 1 step forward, that touches. As you take the next step forward, it opens. As you take the next step, the tip is off, and it's this wrist that is extended. As you take your 4th step, that then comes forward, and it's not until you take that 1 again, that 5th step, that the cane comes down. Would you try that again? Mm-hmm. So it's on every count 1 that the tip of the umbrella comes onto the floor. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's it. Yes. And as we move in society, we begin to find an ease with that it can actually go quite fast. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Thank you very much. Now we're going to do a brief scene from The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. It is a very Victorian manners scene, and the 2 women start out very at ease with each other, and ultimately, as they become to detest each other, exaggerate the politeness of the manners.
Pray let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. Something tells me we will be the best of friends. I like you already more than I can say, and my first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to be so kind to me after we have known each other for such a comparatively short time.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure.
And you must always call me Gwendolen, won't you?
If you wish.
Well, then it is all settled, isn't it?
I hope so.
Well, perhaps now would be a favourable time to tell you who I am. My father is Lord Bracknell. You do not know of him, I suppose.
I don't think so.
Okay, good. Make her come to you. This is the war of the women. And yes, you might be polite, but extend your arm and make her come to you. Let's try that.
How would that handshake work? Would it be like firm, even between women?
Yes, and what you were doing was quite nice, then taking her hand, and I think you should do that. And that lets you, who is this woman that's being familiar, Marie? A couple of things in the last scene. When one drinks tea, you hold the cup, the saucer, in your hand. The hold in the cup is not to put the finger through, but to hold between the finger and the thumb, and that's how you drink your tea. Some people think that the baby finger comes out, that's an affectation. It is just taking the thumb and the first finger so that you drink. There's no reason for you to set your coffee cup down until you want to reply to her.
Okay.
And maybe not even then. And immediately, as soon as you taste that it has the sugar, you see the cake and begin speaking.
Great.
All right? So the reasons for doing this are very clear. This is incredibly insulting. Turn your knees away from her as you place the cup down. You don't need to turn your knees away until you know whether or not she has really fallen for this wonderful bait. You have totally insulted her.
Okay.
So enjoy it. Try it again.
May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detestable girl. But I do require my tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar's not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is hardly seen in the best houses nowadays. You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for my generous disposition and my kindly nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
Good, much better. Movement in period plays is nothing more than knowing the fashions of the period, the courtesies, the gestures, expressions of polite and acceptable behavior. When we're asking an actor to play a Restoration or Victorian play, the bows, the use of canes, fans, handkerchiefs, present what potentially could be obstacles, but are actually openings into the ways that people communicated with each other, flirting, creating ambiguities, nuances, that an actor can really find much more depth to the character. We hope you've had fun with this video. We hope you've learned something. We hope you've learned about the details of the two basic periods that are often quite different from our contemporary usage. And play. Never forget to breathe, bring life to the character, and allow that character to fulfill impulse.